Hello and welcome to the episode 2 of the Devos LightRanger Evening Build Series. Tonight we'll be using the LightRanger to install a Prinsu roof rack supplied to us through our local friends, Forerunner Lifestyle. To kick it off, they first recommend that you pop off the existing rack, of course, and supposedly it's easy to do with a screwdriver, just popping off the 4 plastic covers in each corner. So we'll give that a whirl and see how it goes. Well, that didn't go as I thought it would. It just broke off. Well, that wasn't very successful in taking it off without damage. We did some chunking. That one wasn't quite as bad, but we still broke a couple little chunks. Well, you can see where the plastic shroud is breaking. It's right where the hooks are. Opposite side, the hooks are intact. They need to do a better job of locating where those hooks are and maybe pulling away instead of up. I'm sure it has something to do with being 20 degrees out here tonight. So those last 2 covers I kind of pulled out as I levered up. That seemed to do the trick. Didn't break, especially in this cold weather. It seems like that's what you need to do to get those off without breaking them. So the next steps are to remove, it looks like about 4 bolts from the front, 4 bolts from the rear, and the rack should come right off. Hopefully that goes better than taking the covers off. All right, so taking it off was pretty simple. 8 bolts, a little bit of elbow grease on the first couple of pushes with a wrench, and then the impact took them right off. One thing I did notice though is that when the bolts came out, they had thread locker on them. So I know the kit came with thread locker. That tells me this is where the thread locker goes back on with these mounting bolts. According to the instructions, the next step is to clean off the area of the roof where the rack has been. So it's got all kinds of dirt and grime and stuff under it. So that's what we're going to tackle next. It's starting to get cold, so my voice might, my lips might start moving a little slower. Anyway, here we go. So when I took the rack off, I put most of the old bolts back in as a placeholder just to keep track of everything. And as I was coming up to this corner to do so, when I pushed on it, that whole little nut assembly fell into the vehicle. What a disaster. So I had to pause the video here, and I had to shut it down for the night, figure out what to do next. So I considered putting in some nut certs or some jack bolts because, you know, it'd be hard to get that nut backing thing back into place. Couldn't find anything locally that I felt like was strong enough. So I used some wire and tried to dig for it. It took about an hour, couldn't get it. Found it in there, but I couldn't get the wire to pull it up inside. So I got inside the vehicle and pulled off some of the trim and dropped some of the headliner. I was able to reach in and grab that part. Well, it has the 2 nuts on it, but I couldn't push it into place. So my wife heard me complaining about it and said, why don't you just use some string? And so that's what we did. We dropped some string down the holes, wrapped it through, pulled it up into place. We've siliconed it, so hopefully it will stick. It's been a few hours with the silicone. Hopefully it will stay in place as we install the rack now. Okay, so the instructions say get everything loosely fastened, all the crossbars fastened, which we've done. And then it says to square up the front crossbar, the middle crossbar, and the rear crossbar and make sure everything's square. That's what we'll be doing next. Next step is to install the wind deflector on the front. Basically, you take these little T-nuts here, slide them into these grooves, and then bolt them here into the front of the wind deflector plate. out that the easiest way to do this is to put the screws in first with the T-nuts on the back side and then slide it into the rail. So that's what we'll do next. I want this loose enough so that it will give you space to put it through the rail. Okay, for this next step, we're going to weigh the old rack and weigh the new rack and see what the weight difference is. 16.6 pounds. Looks like we're at 39 pounds. Oh, wasn't off the ground. Still 39 pounds. Okay, for the next step, we're going to add these spacers right here to help space the rack up where it needs to be. But before we do that, we need to take some silicone. The instructions say we need to fill in this nut area in here. I guess that helps waterproof everything. And so that's what we're going to do next on all four corners of the rig. Fill this hole with silicone and add the spacers, and we'll be ready to pop the rack on. Three corners done except for the corner in question where we've had some problems with this dropping in. So crossing our fingers that it stays. Do some silicone in and around. Good on the other ones. What I might even do is just add a length of just a regular stud. One of these to hold it in place. So I've got a little stud in here. Hopefully we'll hold things in place until we can get at least one bolt in on this side, and then I'll take this out. It should work. Crossing our fingers. Okay, so we've got the rooftop rack on, concentrating on this section here where we have that little stud holding the fallen nut plate in place. We're gonna try to put a bolt in there. The kit came with proper bolts and thread locker. So put a little thread locker on here. I think we put a big washer on it and we'll go from there. All right, I successfully put one screw in, pulled that little stud out and have the new one in. So let's see if it'll tighten down. Okay, we finished up our episode 2 of the Devos LightRanger Evening Build Series. It was a pleasure installing the Prinsu roof rack. Thanks to 400 Lifestyle for helping us out with the purchase. They're great guys, local guys, and we really love working with them. Once again, 25 degrees out, and I'm getting tired, and we're calling it a night.